Welcome back, part 2 in our mini-series of how to spray in a small workshop. Today we're actually going to do some spraying, so that sounds good. Stick around. So in the last video I explained why I wanted to pick up spraying, and we spoke about the different types of spray available, and we went through why I made a decision to go to this Grako Ultra Airless spray gun. Now today we're going to put this through its paces and spray some projects that I've just kept on one side. I've got a small display cabinet here, I've got a stool that I knocked out on the CNC, and a beautifully engraved stool seat that goes on top of, well, the stool. And I want to spray all these. 2 coats of undercoat, 2 coats of chalk paint, and we'll see how we get on. Now, one thing I do know about the airless type spray guns is they do give you a lot of overspray. And what I don't want to have happen is to cover my entire workshop in paint. So job 1 is I'm going to turn this into a makeshift spray booth. Now, I've never used this gun before. It's straight from the factory and it's got some cleaning fluid inside, and the instructions here tell me that I need to actually clean this out or give it a bit of a flush, so that's what we will do. Make sure it's dropped out from the battery. Just drop the flexi liner inside the cup and then go and fill this with water. Then put the lid back on and screw that down. Careful not to spill this everywhere. Then I just align the black knob here with the front knob at this point, and just turn that, and that's all locked into place. And now I can drop the battery back in. Now that's one thing I do like about that. Look at that, with the battery on and the cup inside, that sits there nice and firmly. I like small features like that. I'm now going to put the pump sprayer here into the prime position, pointing down. Speed control at the back is turned to 10. Correct. There's nothing coming out, no fluid leaking on as I tip this thing up. And I turn the sprayer upside down and point the spray into a waste pail, and I pull the trigger for 3 seconds. Waste pail, turn it upside down. 1, 2, 3. I'm now going to rotate the spray tip into the unclogged position, like so. So the arrow's pointing towards the rear of the gun. I put the sprayer towards the spray position, so that's now facing forward. Hold the spray upside down again and point the spray into the waste bucket. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go, and that's it. That is now flushed and it's ready for use. So finished with the waste liquid, so I'm just going to pour that out. And the first thing that we're going to spray today is Mdf Primer, water-based. There you go, that's sort of pretty much in where it needs to be now. So I now open this little black valve cap here. I tilt the gun so that the cap's at the highest part, and I squeeze the flexi liner until I see paint come into that reservoir, which I have, which is there. Close that cap, clip it down, and that's it. That paint is now pressurized, I guess, with no air inside the system. Turn the prime pump knob down to the prime position, check. Turn the spray tip to unclog position, check. Point the spray into the waste area and hold the trigger for 3 to 10 seconds. Come back in with my bucket. 1, 2, 3. I don't know how I know if that's full or not, but we did what it said. Then just recheck the flexi liner again. Some more I did come out of that, so that's worth doing. Pull that down. Cool. Then turn the knob forward. Put the spray into position. Before I go gung-ho into everything, just going to put a little bit of scrap wood here. Now, it does recommend that you start off with a speed of 1 and slowly increase it until we get what we think is a nice spray. I'm going to drop my hat on to hide my COVID-inspired haircut that some of you commented on last time. I mean, thank you for the support. And a safety mask. Now all I'm going to do, I'm going to, well, have a go really. I've no idea what to expect. Moving everything out of the way that's about to get covered in paint. I've never sprayed before, ever, so I have no reference point. So let's give it a crack and see where we end up. Make sure my watch is protected. So I'm going to try and spray onto this scrap piece of wood, and I'm just going to slowly increase the volume till I get what I think is a nice spray pattern.
A couple of 3. Oh yeah.
Well, that was simple. I've actually left that pressure down to about 1. I'm not sure what I'm looking for, but that looks pretty good to me. I don't want to go much higher than that because that has gone on pretty thick and I can just see that. I'm thinking if I were to go any higher than that on a vertical surface, I'll get some runs. So I'm probably actually going to come in at 1. Yeah, I'm going to take this down to 1 and I'm going to step a bit further back. Right, get this out of the way. Let me just explain what I'm going to do on the spray setup. I've actually made myself a painter's wheel. I just got one of these cheap black discs, spinny discs from Amazon. I think they're called Lazy Susans. I've taken a bit of 12mm MDF and I've cut a circle on the CNC and then just inlaid these fingers. And my thinking is I can rest my to be sprayed item on there. I can spray across. I can spin, spray, spin, spray, spin, spray. I've got my painted pyramids. I 3D printed these some time ago, so you've seen these before on the channel. And I'm going to set these up just over here, like so, such that I have a place to rest this. Okay, so now I can spray this. I can carefully pick it up underneath and then ever so gently just rest that onto the pyramids, and that should be good to dry then, and I can get on with the next piece. The other thing is, I've just got these 2 black trays. I'm just taking the dust out. I'm just going to leave these lying around the shop. So I'm going to put one here on the end of the bench, and if I can, I'm just going to put one here at the back of the spraying area. Now the reason I put those 2 black discs there is I just want us to look at the dust that settles in the air. Overspray is where you don't spray onto the material, that atomizes into the air, it creates a dust and the dust settles. And I want to see what that looks like and feels like. Because ultimately, what you're seeing here with all the polyfeed is not how I want to go. I want something much more portable, much more versatile, much quicker to set up. This only took about 10 minutes to be fair, but I don't want the mess of doing that. And I don't always want to be buying new plastic. So I am thinking of some sort of spray booth. And I've got a few ideas, and you guys have recommended some ideas as well. So we'll get into that at some point. But that should just allow me to see how much dust is settling out of the air. Well, I'm sure for all those people who are good sprayers and doing an awful lot, I'm sure you're laughing like mad right now. But for the first attempt, I'm not displeased with that. It's gone on incredibly quickly. That would have taken me so long on this piece alone to do the hand and brush, and even the small tins were a pain compared to that. So it's gone on super fast, and it's a nice even coat as well. I love the way that finish has come out. That's only the undercoat, of course. I'm going to let that dry off for a couple of hours. I'll come back in, I'll give it a light sanding, and then I'll give it another coat of undercoat, and that should do it. But look at the air quality. The air quality has gone up a little bit, 52. My little dust tray here, this one is relatively dust free. A little bit of dust is collected inside that one. This one in the line of fire has got a reasonable amount of dust, but not huge amounts of dust in there either. So yeah, there's overspray. You can certainly see on the sheets there's overspray, but it's okay. That's a lot better than I thought it would be. So if that's anything to go by, I don't need all this elaborate stuff here. I can devise something that's going to sit on the bench, and I should be in good shape. Bear in mind, I have got a high quality air conditioner there, sat there sucking out fumes, so that's probably helped a little bit. But I can't smell anything at all. Air quality still deteriorating. Actually, it's hovering around about 65, 68. Yeah, nothing more to add. Now what I am going to do, and I got this tip from Peter Millard, and also using this was a tip from Peter Millard as well over at the 10-minute workshop. I'm just going to put a little bit of a damp cloth on the end of this nozzle to save me cleaning this thing down, so when I come back in a couple of hours I can just give it another quick spray. These are called J cloths in the UK, just a blue cloth, kitchen use. I'm not sure if you get them in the US. Oh, what Peter was saying, wipe off the nozzle, keep it clean. And drop in the J cloth and just sort of kind of wrap it round. And that little bit of moisture there on the end of the cloth just keeps that good. Gun's not too dirty, the area's not too dirty. I'm going to have a cup of tea. I'll see you in about a couple of hours and we'll look at the results and get on to the next coat. See you in a second. Everything is now hardened off overnight, and I must confess the finish is gorgeously smooth. Gorgeously smooth. Never seen anything like that before. So I'm really pleased with that, and that's just the undercoat phase. Next job is I want to see how we get on with a thicker paint, and this is obviously going to be the chalk paint. Never sprayed this before in this way, but then again, never sprayed before, so no surprise there. This is not going to be chalk paint. I'm actually going to hand paint this with a black paint I used on the bench. So that doesn't need any more work for now, so I'll put that on one side. But both the stool itself and the display cabinet are now going to get 2 coats of chalk paint. I did clean the Grako down last night. It took a bit of time, so cleaning's not super simple as the marketing would sort of indicate, but no surprise there. But it did clean down okay. Everything's unblocked and cleared, that's good. And I did manage to wash out these containers. They don't come super clean, but I think they're good enough for what we need. So I would say you'd probably get about 2 or 3 uses out of one of these flex liners before it becomes a problem for you. Let's quickly talk about overspray. So I did quickly watch the video last night from our little air quality monitor, and at times it did peak into that high level of pollution mark, but it settled down again very quickly. Most of the time, 5 minutes after spraying with the air extractor unit on, this was down into moderate pollution, which is not perfect but good enough, and today we're right back down to good again, so we seem to be okay. My dust trays have indeed collected dust as things have settled. You can probably see that there. Now this was a tray that was actually on the bench, so right in the line of fire. And this was a tray that was behind me, and not too bad. Not too bad. And you can see the big challenge here. The amount of overspray here when I was working is huge. Huge amounts of overspray here. So everything's pretty ready now. Everything's rubbed down. Very quick and easy to rub down. No hard labour at all on that one. Just really just denibbing any dust bits. Let's see what our paint looks like. Ooh, nice. So this is Rust-Oleum chalk paint. Just going to come in and mix it. Actually, it's not as thick as I thought it would be. I was expecting to have to thin this down somewhat, but it's actually, it looks pretty good actually. So I'm going to try and spray this straight out of the jug. 3 seconds on prime. Seems to be struggling a little bit. It does seem to be struggling a bit there. I'm not sure whether that's the paint was too thick or the battery is a little bit flat. So I'm just putting the other battery on. Oh yeah, better. Okay, so I've now got this turned up to about 8. And I'm going to give that a go, I think. Now that was interesting. With that paint being a lot thicker, obviously I could hear the gun struggling and it wasn't a really nice spray pattern. So, but I've managed to get the first coat on, but it's a bit blotchy here and there, so not as good as I would like. But we all learn, right? So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this harden off for a few hours now, I think, because I want to just rub off those blotches that I've made. And then I'm going to thin the paint down a little bit and we'll come back together and we'll try the top coat with the paint thin down a little bit and we'll see what we think. Okay, I'll let that set off. I'll come back together. See you shortly. One thing I do like about chalk paint, it's before it all hardens off and before you get the wax on it, it's quite soft, so it's really easy to sand. So any blemishes you can just really just like smooth off. Love it, love it. Okay, so I've got some fresh water, I've got our pot of paint, and I've got my little twiddly stick. Now, just a bit of research tells me I need to look for worm tails, so when I lift this up, it just makes trails on the paint, and apparently I don't want it really to do that. I want it to be quite small trails rather than thick trails, so I'm just putting a little bit of water. You don't need a lot apparently either. Okay, so this is now probably the consistency of double cream. Now those worm tails are vanishing pretty quickly now, and I think that's about the right consistency. So there we go. And that looks a lot better. So that thinning down seems to work reasonably well. So I've got that now set to about 3.5. You saw the consistency of the paint. This should be its final coat. So there you go, that's the Grako Ultra Airless Handheld Sprayer. It's done a good job. Quality of the finish is really good. Never comes out clearly on the camera, but that's beautifully smooth. It's got a couple of coats of wax on that now as well, and that's ready to go off onto somebody's wall. I also have a stool in the workshop now. I think that's come out quite nice for a quick knock-up CNC job, so I'm pleased with that as well. And the gun itself has obviously done us proud, all nicely cleaned up and put on one side. In terms of the undercoat, that went on incredibly well, straight out of the can, no dilution, giving me a beautiful smooth finish. And I actually do believe if I was using a latex paint, that would also come out beautifully. I worked out the problem with the chalk paint. It wasn't so much the dilution, but the chalk paint has got small particles inside it. Gives it the appearance that I like, I guess, slightly chalky finish. And it was those small particles that are actually clogging the nozzle up. So obviously the nozzle's clogged, the gun's trying to pump against a blocked nozzle, and that's why it appeared to be struggling. So it wasn't actually a dilution problem at all. A little bit of research shows me that ideally you want about a 1.4mm nozzle on the gun. You're not going to get that on an airless spray gun, but I have ordered some more nozzles here, some more tips. They've got a slightly wider aperture on them. So when that arrives, I'll put that through the paces and we can see what we think. So that's all I wanted to cover for today. I wanted to get some paint through this gun and have a quick look, see what we think. And yeah, a couple of projects, early days, but it seems very, very positive. Finish is nice, well pleased with that, it's done a good job. Next episode, we'll actually give some final thoughts on this. I want to reflect on some questions that you've asked and reflect on some advice and tips that you've given me as well as we've been making this course. And I also want to talk about the running costs of this, because obviously it's quite an expensive thing to buy. There's a pump inside that you can replace, but it's £200 for a replacement pump on this particular device, and it will only last for about 200 litres of paint. And there's quite a lot of negative feedback around that particular aspect of this device. So I want to talk about that, break it down. Is it good value? Is it bad value? For somebody like myself, small production in a small workshop. Hope you find this useful, and I'll see you next time on the Woodgrafter. Thanks for watching. Take care.